Everyone's really fun to play with. It's like, we kind of clicked, I think, pretty early. All of us, we like hang out. We had like 2-3 day break and we all like played games together. We like watched stuff together, we went to the movies together, so it's been really nice so far. I've only bootcamped once before and it was pretty similar to an experience like this. The other teams like that have been mostly online, that we've only played like at tournaments together, haven't been as close like a bond, I'd say. You can watch the games together on the same screen. You can actually hang out. I think like there's a level of chemistry like between players and like on the team like hanging out. So I think boot camps are really important to becoming a strong team. I was 15, so 4 years ago, and I kind of played Dota on and off. And I watched Sumail, and he won DAC, and then he won TI5 with Universe and Peter. And he's 6 months older than me, so he was also 15 at the time. And the day I saw him win, I was like, I'm gonna do that too. And since he was like my age, I was like, you know, he can do it, I can do it too. So the past 4 years, I've been working towards that goal. I was really excited because I reached out to Peter and I like told him I wanted to play with him. And he was interested, but it wasn't, you know, 100%. And then he reached out to me a few days later and he was like, yeah, let's make a team. And then it was a really nice day. I think it's okay. I think there can be some things that can be changed. Like in last year, there's the whole thing about, you know, players getting kicked before like events, even before TI. I think 2 players got kicked that like qualified to TI and then they weren't even able to play in it. So I think they kind of changed that a little. They made it so if you kick someone before an event, I think you preemptively lose points. So I think they've been kind of going towards the right direction, as well. The qualifiers, I think being combined makes it a lot easier for like smaller tournaments, like third-party tournaments, to kind of like jump in the mix. So I think the season's going to be a little more packed, but it's not going to be as packed as I think 2 years ago when it was a tournament every week and people kind of stopped paying attention. So I think it's pretty healthy right now. Both, I'd say. I think it's healthy and kind of unhealthy at the same time. It's healthy because like you have a goal. You know, like this is the one thing you want to win no matter what. But it's unhealthy, I think, because it's like you can win every single other tournament and do bad at TI and it's a failure every year. And you can do the opposite. You can get last place at every tournament, win TI, get top 2 at TI. Your year's fairly, it's a success. You got more money than everyone else in the year. So I think there's some levels. Personally, I kind of like to see it be like the prize pool would be more spread out throughout the year, where the biggest cut would still be TI, but the other tournaments would kind of all be increased overall. So it's like more money spread out throughout the year to everyone. Yeah, to some extent, yeah, because that's the reason people only care about TI. It's because there's so much more money. You know, it's like 30 times the amount of money as every other tournament, and there's five of the majors each year. So it's like you can't even get close to the amount of money at TI. So people only care about it because of the amount of money you can get. It was really nice. It was kind of like scary at first. You see all the cameras set up and you know it's live. You know, it's like you mess up, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are watching. There's VODs, people are gonna watch it for years, you know. Maybe not you specifically, but like maybe they scroll past you, you know. But once I kind of got into it, it was like a really nice experience. I was mostly on draft panel for the main event, so there's a lot of like what I knew what to do was mostly just talking about the heroes people were picking, kind of the in-game stuff, so it was really easy. The other talent was all really fun, nice to work with. They were all like really nice people, so it was a really nice experience. I think last year was like a lot of the teams kind of stuck together in the shuffle. There wasn't really a big explosion. All the top teams were fairly the same. And then I think this year was like contracts were ended and players, this was like this is one more year to do it. So I think this was kind of the year where everything blew up in a sense. So most of the teams, you know, lost 2-3 players. And there's a lot of shuffles. It's kind of hard to tell right now which teams are strong, which teams aren't, especially since I think for the top 4 teams at TI are not playing at all right now. So it's hard to tell what teams are kind of good, what rosters are, strong, what rosters could be strong. So right now it's probably the biggest question I think I've seen in like a roster shuffle. I personally like it. Since TI I've liked it to now, which is when they released Party Queue and they started doing, 5-man stacks were really nice. I like those more than solo queue. The past, I'd say like 3-4 days, after TI, there's been some updates, 2 months after TI, and they kind of have been strengthening the matchmaking system. So it's like you can only be within a certain MMR, and it's kind of hurt Party Queue, I think. And for me, I know some people don't like Party Queue as much in like the very high ranks, but I really like it because it's more similar to a real game, so I think it's better experience. It's like a much more rewarding experience. Like play with, your friends or your teammates. You all get to talk. So I personally like the idea of Party Queue being the main thing. People have always said like everything is like not real Dota. It's always like when there's in-house leagues or like scrims or whatever, they're like you play pub and they're like, oh, that's not real Dota. And then you move to like, Party Queue and they're like, oh, that's not real Dota. It's just MMR. It's not a scrim. You play scrims and you're like, oh, you don't have the pressure of this being a real thing, and you play like an online and they're like, oh, wait till you're online, there's the pressure. And then when you're online, you're like, TI is where it's all at, So I think a lot of it's like mentality, and you want to like be able to play at your calmest state, So you always want to be able to not worry about the setting you're in and playing, and just play all the same game, because in the end it's just the same game. I feel like I want to perform like really good when there's a lot of people watching. So I know at ESL Mumbai, that was like my first big LAN, and I remember I was like really nervous before, and I was like backstage, waiting for them to call us on stage. My knees were kind of shaking. I was a little nervous, but I like sat down in the computers, and the screen loads up. I start Dota. And I like sit down and we're waiting for the game to start, and I kind of just like thought to myself, like, why are you nervous? Like, you've done this thing a million times, You've played so many games, like it's all the same. And I kind of just smiled and I just played the game. It's like a little intimidating, but at the same time, it's good like confidence as well, because if you play against another mid player and you like beat a mid, and maybe people think he's better than you, you're like, I'm equal to him or I'm better than him. And at the same time, I think a lot about the game is like confidence. It's like how well you believe in yourself, how like you perceive yourself. Like if you think you're bad, you're always gonna like lose. You're gonna play a little differently. So I always have the mentality like I'm gonna think of like some super crazy stuff, and I'm gonna pull it off. Like no matter what. So and like every time you can like pull off these like crazy things, these 1 in 100 chance, 1 in 1,000 chance, you feel a lot better about yourself. You kind of play with a little extra fire, I think. So I think the way I like playing is kind of suited for the role. The last year, I think as the game like evolves, teams get faster and faster. There's a lot less time for error, a lot less time to do nothing. So if you take 4 years ago, a lot of the mids were really farm heavy. They were kind of like carries as well. And as like time moves on now, the mids are mids. They're not a carry. You don't really farm. You have to be very active on the map. You have to think more, I think, about like the game as a whole and winning the game, and not just about, how do I make my game good? Because in the end, it doesn't really matter if my game's good if we lose. It only matters if we win the game. So I think it's kind of evolved to be more like a faster, think about the team's role instead of about yourself. The biggest mistake, like overall, in general, as like all roles, but like I think especially mid right now, is the way I see it. Is people are playing not to lose sometimes instead of to win. So they're kind of playing more defensive, don't want to make like a mistake, you know, they always do like the safe thing. They never do anything like, you know, wow, that was like a really, you know, crazy thing to do, or like that won you the game, you know. They always do like stable things, and I think a lot of learning your limits and playing to the full potential is like messing up. So I think with mid right now, it's a lot of being able to like play to the maximum limit. So I think the biggest thing people do sometimes is they don't want to mess up, ever. Best part is you get to travel a lot. You get to meet all, like I'm friends with a bunch of different like pros. It's like kind of a community at least. Like for NA, like I'm friends with most of the pros, friends with a bunch of European pros, like even just like Dota players who are high MMR I'm friends with, so going to events and like meeting people is really nice. The worst is the same. You travel a lot, but you don't get to see anything because you're playing tournaments all day. You kind of have a tight schedule, so it's kind of best and worst. Maybe EG 2015, just because like Sumail is like the one who got me into wanting to play pro. I watched them, you know, DAC and win TI. It's also kind of cool now because I'm friends with 3 out of the 5 players on the team, like really close. Like honestly, like I talk to like most of them now. And it's really cool to think of like these players that you admire now are kind of like on an equal ground to you. So that's probably my favorite roster. As of now, like the person I'm trying to like be closest to, gameplay-wise, is like Topson, I guess. He won 2 TIs, so obviously he knows what he's doing. But he has kind of the like crazy unrefined vibe that I do in game, where he doesn't care if he makes mistakes, and his team is the same vibe, where it's like he'll, you know, do stupid things for 10 minutes in a row, but one of them works on the 11th minute, and then they win the game because of it. So right now, that's probably who I'm closely trying to play towards. It's really cool. I've wanted to be like in a org for a while, you know. My dad's been trying to like, he's basically been, for the last 2 years, he's been being like, where's my jersey with your name on it, you know? So that's been my goal, I think. I wanted to be able to like get him a jersey with my name on it, so finally I'm on an org, so he can finally get a jersey with me. And it's really cool to kind of know like, this is my brand, this is who I am, this is the team, and have like support, but also support them back. It's nice, you get to know the area, I guess. Hopefully if we come back, it won't be as like a surprise, you know. Because at TI9, like every event I've been to, it's kind of been like, first time I've been there. I've never been to anywhere twice for Dota. So it'll be kind of nice to, I think we went to the arena, like where it's gonna be. And so it's like, I already know exactly where it's gonna be. So it'll be really fun if we come back.